Well, good morning, brother. I survived the Jiu-Jitsu Roll-a-thon dressed as Hulk Hogan on Memorial Day weekend. Thank you guys for raising. Oh, man, I think grand total was $3,000. Thanks to everybody who came out and participated in that. Today, big political news show. This is the Failure Stop Podcast channel, the #1 channel where law enforcement first responders go to be informed and entertained 5 days a week. Starting off with society and culture news every Monday. Because you got to have something else to talk about over the barbecue other than dead babies and domestic violence. Tuesdays is True Crime Tuesdays for all the stay-at-home wives out there and the guys that are just generally interested in unsolved murders and gruesome, crazy stuff that keeps you awake at night. Of course, Wednesdays is this show, the political news show, because the more you know, knowing is half the battle. Thursday, sports. Friday, big case breakdowns. Every other Friday, big special guests. All right here on one podcast channel, Failure Stop. Launching the new Failure Stop Podcast Network, which is the C- Media Network, but we're going to call it Failure to Stop Podcast Network because we're bringing on tons of other law enforcement and other first responder shows under the entire umbrella of the network. So not only do we have anti-hero podcasts, but we got a bunch of other podcasts coming to the channel. So a lot of exciting things. This is a live show today. We are live every Wednesday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So David J. Brennan from C, Florida, Dead Leg, one more and I'm out of here. Low Rin, Jill Billy 007, Will Cray. Thank you guys all so much for being in the live chats with us today. Today's show, we've got, we got the Trump trial. Right now, the deliberations are underway after yesterday's Robert DiNero appearance for final arguments and kind of how that went. Julian Assange, will he be pardoned by Trump when he gets in? We'll talk about that. Big story, though, today is the Biden administration out to hire social media meme makers, $85,000 a year, what that's going to look like. And then we have another strange story today about the Secret Service preparing for Trump to go to jail or prison from an anonymous source, of course. But it's a very odd story. It's very funny. And it seems pretty obvious that it's propaganda. And so we'll run through it. Don't be fooled by that one. There's tons of clues there. That is just making this job way too easy. But yeah, big news story. I mean, you know what? Listen, I don't know. I always say it's a big news week. It's just because we do political news once a week. So there's a lot that happens in the course of a week. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's a big news day or anything like that. I don't want to be like hyperbolic or make, end of the world type stuff. I'm not that guy. But there's just a lot to get into. I think it's going to be a fun discussion today. We might have Conservative Ant jumping in here or not. It's political season. So, Conservative Ant is always going on other shows. So I wasn't sure what his schedule was this morning, but he did respond to the email. So I'm guessing he'll jump in here. But with us today, we do have Kiefer from One More and I'm Out of Here podcast. Also, he's one of the hosts on our sports show on Thursdays. And of course, our producer and fact check extraordinaire, Josh from Dead Leg Media. Without further ado, let's kick this thing off. Everything brought to you by ghostbed.com, factormeals.com/Wolfpack5050 for 50% off. Hit it, Joshua.
The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
I wish I had like a breaking news, the Hans Zimmer breaking news button on my thing here. Not crazy breaking news, but I thought this was an interesting article. Let me just start this off before I bring on the panel here. Let me add this to the stage.
Police are searching for the driver caught doing donuts, damaging the Progressive Pride street mural.
Just after 2:40 Wednesday morning, a vehicle is caught on a security camera doing donuts, damaging a Pride mural on Central Avenue in St. Petersburg. Tire marks still visible on the street.
My reaction is disappointment, not surprise. I think anytime we're in a situation where we have public displays of pride, our authentic selves, people are going to have a reaction to it.
Dr. Byron Green Collish is president of St. Pete Pride. He feels someone targeted the mural. He says the mural is visual representation that everyone is welcomed here.
The mural is really a public love letter to the residents of St. Pete. Being able to collaborate with the city and other pride organizations here in the city really feels like love and home.
St. Pete police say over the past week, 2 different vehicles have left tire marks on the mural. One where a driver accelerated on Friday, May 17th at around 9:30 in the morning. The second incident, that vehicle doing donuts. Officers do not believe the 2 cases are connected. Mayor Ken Welch posted on Instagram saying, in light of the recent vandalism targeting the Progressive Pride flag mural, there is no place for hate in St. Petersburg.
I don't need to hear any more of it. That's crazy because I don't know, every single day I get on my computer and I see people doing donuts, shooting off fireworks into the air, popping off rounds, shooting at each other, smacking each other with these cars. Nobody seems to give a rat's rear end about it. And now we've got somebody doing donuts on a, what they called a public mural. So if it's public and it's public property, if you take the street, a public street, and you put something on it, do I not have the right to protest that? I mean, it's public. You're kind of, the road would be an open forum if I kind of read it correctly. I feel like if you put something on the public street, then you can if it's public and we're just painting murals on a public street that we all pay taxes for, can I not paint something on the street? Can I not paint over the gay flag if I wanted to?
Is it just this public one that we're going to be up in arms about? Because when we're tearing down statues and burning parks and all that stuff, that public part we're okay with. But this, where we paint the road where you travel and we have specific things about the road. The lighting has to be specific. The signing has to be specific size and the font and the color and the space. Like there are a lot of rules and specific things about the roadway to keep things uniform. That way, when the other idiots and crayon eaters out there are behind the wheel and they see a red stop sign, they know, hey, that red stop sign means stop. But what do we do when we see a crosswalk and someone's in the crosswalk? Well, don't run them over because they're a pedestrian in a crosswalk. But what do you see? What happens when you see someone in the pride parade or the pride painting across the street? What's the rules of the road for that? I don't know. Maybe let's not.
That's great journalism
in the middle of the road.
What if they're dressed as a pride flag themselves? Like, what if all their attire matches the pride flag? You don't see them, you smoke them in the street. Is that a hate crime?
Well, they're camouflaged, so
yeah.
But that's great. That's great journalism there with doing donuts while accelerating. Well, you kind of have to accelerate to do a donut.
Doing donuts. Very strange story, especially when you see the chaos from these street takeovers. Like, how do we know that this wasn't just a street takeover? Why does it have to be a hate crime just because they did donuts on the press? I mean, they've been doing donuts in almost every intersection. You can drive through any major city, and most of those 4-way intersections are riddled with these donut marks. That's gotten really out of hand, and I'm not sure. I've seen a lot of videos of these cops just ignoring all of that. Very strange.
Here's something I don't understand is next month is Pride Month. You get the entire month. So we're going to take all of May to get the city ready by painting the streets and all this stuff. Veterans that literally gave their lives for this country got 1 day. But if you take it in the ass, you get an entire month.
Yeah. I mean, it's incentive. I'm incentivized. Anyway, I saw that story this morning breaking, and I just thought to myself, man, that's very odd, because I have been extremely frustrated with these street takeovers. But there's been no manhunt. There's been no anybody that can identify the person in the Cadillac 300 whatever doing donuts and shooting a rifle out of the window. We don't see any of that. Not like this video, because somebody did it on a gay pride flag. But yeah, I'd be interested. Like, what if you inch a little too far out in that intersection and a semi truck that's trying to make a turn clips the front of your car? Who's at fault? Does the city take that on the chin because the roads weren't painted appropriately? Because I didn't learn in driver's ed how to make my way through a gay pride intersection. Do you drive through it like any other intersection? Do I need to flail my hands out? Do I need to put a wig and some lipstick on before. I don't know. They didn't teach me how to do it, so I don't know. Speaking of which, some of you guys might be watching this right now and saying, thank God that most people listen to this show and they don't watch it, but they were like, why are you wearing a cut-off Hulkamania shirt? You're not even that strong. You're not even that muscular. This was the shirt. I'll be hanging it here in the studio. This was the roll-a-thon. This is what I wore, part of my costume, for all the money that you guys raised for the We Defy Foundation 1 hour roll-a-thon, where I sparred for 1 hour straight with no breaks. I sparred with like 1 brown belt and 3 black belts just to start. And it just got worse from there because they really tired me out quickly. And but it was just a really cool day to be there, rolling on Memorial Day. Everybody there paid $20 to be there. So I think overall it was just over $3,000 that we raised for that event, just on YouTube. For our YouTube folks, you guys were somewhere around 1,100, and then we had another 200 or 300 that was donated from the audio listeners. So I know it's easier for you guys on YouTube to donate because you guys were super chatting, but really great event. So $3,000 going to veterans to do jujitsu, wounded or disabled veterans. So the We Defy the Foundation, and it's a really good thing. So thank you guys. So I'm wearing the shirt one more time before it goes on the wall. I'm not trying to flex on you guys. I know that I'm not that strong, but I had a lot of fun. That was really hard for me to do because I have never paced myself to roll for an hour or to spar for an hour straight. And if anybody's ever wrestled or done any kind of jujitsu or grappling, it is very tiring, very exhausting. So I know that there's a lot of people that sent me some comments on the live YouTube. They're like, your jiu-jitsu game's not really that great. You're not wrong. It's not that great, but it was even worse that day because there were a lot of moments where I had opportunities to explode or to try to take on the opponent and get on the offensive. But it was a defensive battle for the whole day. I wasn't going to do offense at all because it wasn't about me getting a tap on anyone except my best friend who I got a tap on. He's like the 4th or 5th guy on there. But everybody else, I just kind of let them choke me at will. And so if I got into a really bad position, I just kind of laid there and caught my breath and let them work it into some kind of a submission because I had to go for a whole hour. So, that's another white belt that just went really hard on me. Everybody else went really soft. This dude was like, not today, motherfucker. I'm going to kill you. He double leg blasted me to get me down, which hurt. And then he just really put those chokes in really tight. And, unbeknownst to him, I wasn't really trying. I would have let him have those, even if he went a little bit lighter, but c'est la vie, right? I don't know what that means, but it sounds like it fits there.
It's impressive. Anyway, you went the whole hour though. It was awesome to see though, and I mean a great cause for it. But to see like actually go the whole hour, because full disclosure, I didn't think you were going to make it a whole hour.
It was hard, man. It was hard with no water. I think I only took one little splash of water break, and that was like 50 minutes in. But like I needed just one sip of water because my mouth was so dry. But it was. There's a lot of like gay innuendos in here. I get it. I'm sure you guys will mean those later or reel those later. Not proud of it. Not my proudest fap. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was hard to go, man. Like literally that last 10 minutes was like 100% like will to survive, to be honest with you. My arms were like lead. My legs were like lead. Standing up every time was just almost impossible. Everything was on fire. And people don't realize, but when you keep your legs up like that, trying to keep people off your stomach, you're in a crunch position. It's almost like a Pilates crunch position. So getting my legs up the next morning to get out of bed was insane. But anyway, there you go. That's why I'm dressed like this. Let's jump into today's news stories. First of all, let's go into this Trump derangement coming from Robert DiNero. Go ahead and play that clip. We'll start it there.
This is my neighborhood, downtown New York City. I grew up here and feel at home in these streets.
By the way, that is his neighborhood. He does have a restaurant that I've always wanted to go to. It's a Michelin star restaurant. I think it's called Tribeca Tavern or Tribeca. I forgot what the name of it is. You guys can look it up. Robert De Niro's restaurant. He owns it with a guy that was in Patriot Day or
Tribeca Grill in New York.
Tribeca Grill, yeah. Huge wine list, really great wine list. So I've always wanted to go to that restaurant. Probably won't go there anymore because I'm not the biggest fan of Robert De Niro. Who does he own that with? It's Robert De Niro and he's another actor.
Drew Nieporent.
Yeah,
Nieporent.
Yeah. He was in the movie Patriot Games or whatever one with Harrison Ford is. He's one of the SEALs in that, I believe. He's been in a bunch of movies. You can look him IMDb up. You would know who he is. You don't know him by name, but he's been in a bunch of movies. So, standing behind Robert De Niro right now, though, is Officer Dunn, who our January 6th insider law enforcement guy who was on the ground there has told us tons of stories about Dunn and just how he's been politically charged ever since the beginning of the Trump era in a department where you're not allowed to show political affiliation because you're literally protecting the president. Throughout the entire Trump administration, this guy had stickers. He was wearing miscellaneous shirts. He was constantly talking politics, and he got away with it forever. And then, of course, now he's kind of the face of January 6th. And then we have the traitor of all traitors in law enforcement that I don't think any officer likes across the world because you can just see his fake crying. He's just that political police officer that poisons a profession that I always talk about, Ferrone or whatever his little bitch ass name is. But I fucking can't even stand it. He's just what a fucking cunt. And he's got all the face tattoos or like all the neck tattoos. And like he's some kind of a badass. Like I bet you that dude would get folded up in a heartbeat. Guys like that, the loudest guys, always the biggest pussies. No shock to me that he cried like a little bitch on the stand. I don't care what happens. I'm not crying like a little bitch in front of the whole world. But anyway, that's the set the stage for you guys here. Let's play Robert De Niro's just extremely hyperbolic, end of the world, doomsday speech here. By the way, the important part of this speech, or the important thing to note here, guys, is that he's doing this while the jury is deliberating. So he's trying to purposely draw a crowd in front of the courthouse while they're giving, not deliberations, they were giving final statements in the trial. And so to retard that or to put a different image in the minds of the jury that's supposed to be fair and impartial, this is just another way that the left tries to retard our systems by coming out there in mass protests and trying to, I think that it should be illegal to protest during trials. It happened in the OJ trial because I think all of that does is it taints the jury. It makes the jury feel a type of way, whether it's afraid or whether it's empowered. But to be an impartial jury, you should have zero feelings going into your deliberation. So highly against this. You wouldn't want it if your ass was on the block. I don't think anybody would want this. So go ahead and hit play and let's see what De Niro has to say. By the way, he's an actor.
I feel comfortable. The Twin Towers fell just over here. Just over there. This part of the city was like a ghost town. But we vowed we would not allow terrorists to change our way of life. And we started the Tribeca Festival to bring people back. I love this city. I love this city. I don't want to destroy it. Donald Trump wants to destroy not only the city, but the country, and eventually he could destroy the world.
Hear all the fuck Joe Biden.
We would not allow terrorists. I owe this city a lot. And that's why it's so weird that Donald Trump is just across the street. Because he doesn't belong in my city. I don't know where he belongs, but he surely doesn't belong here. We New Yorkers used to tolerate him when he was just another grubby real estate hustler masquerading as a big shot. A two-bit playboy lying his way into the tabloids, pretending to be a spokesperson for himself. He was calling it as himself for himself, to fool the press into inflating his net worth. A clown. But this city is pretty accommodating. We make room for clowns. We have them all over the city. People who do crazy things in the street, we tolerate it. It's part of the city, it's part of the culture. But not a person like Trump who will eventually run the country. That does not work, and we all know that. Anyway, we make room for clowns, to each his own. but no one takes him or took him really seriously. They take him seriously now, of course. But around.
So I have a question. Is the city accommodating to all the craziness that's going on in this city right now? Like, is that okay? Pushing people in front of the subways, like getting run over by trains, that's okay. The random just walking down the street, get punched in the face, that's okay. That's the city that you want to promote. That's what you want to save. You want to save that. Walking down the street and not fearing from getting punched in the face, that's something that a clown thinks about.
Illegals can attack cops and just get released. Yeah. You're okay with that?
We're allowing all that in the city, but just not from this one man, just him specifically. And it's because he inflated this, and he's an actor, and he plays. Well, you're hearing from an actor, first of all. Second of all, what the question that we had, Eric and I had yesterday beforehand, what was the purpose of this? There's no, hey, there's a rally. There's no, hey, this is a campaign. What's the purpose of having Robert De Niro and two proven perjury liar on the stand, former police officers that do nothing, they want to further themselves into this political game, have nothing in the game but just them for themselves? What point of having all those people across the street from the court while having closing arguments? What was the purpose of all that?
Yeah, I mean, we know what the purpose is. The purpose is to retard the jury. They knew that if they brought Harry Dunn and Fanone and Robert De Niro, because that's all they could muster, if they brought that, it would bring a crowd. I don't know that they thought that the crowd would be louder than they were, though. I think, honestly, Robert De Niro and his old people press and guys, I have been meeting with people that are running for you guys know that we've had Jonathan Emord on here and his crew. We've had a sheriff that's running in Charleston, South Carolina. Those were the two cool ones. Those are ones that I entertained. I have been on the phone almost bi-weekly, a couple times a month with others across the country, but their publicity team, their publicists are so old and out of touch. And I would even argue that maybe Jonathan Emord's team is a little bit old and out of touch. I think that you have to that's a job that you got to give to Gen Z, and that's going to tie into our next story, which is Biden's meme manager. But these publicists, they're so out of touch with reality and social media and where the younger generations are pulling their news information for, that I think Robert De Niro thought in this moment, his publicists, his team, they thought that this was going to be this huge rally and that there was going to be overwhelming support for Robert De Niro, and it was going to be like an O.J. Simpson thing where they would have the picket signs and the whole 9 yards. And what ended up showing up was a whole bunch of fuck Joe Biden, almost to the point where he has to cut his speech extremely short. You saw where he was like, and then he just skips paragraphs and he keeps going. I want to play out the rest of the speech though, just because I think as a police officer, as a first responder sitting in your patrol wagon, you need to know what this guy says in its totality. Very hyperbolic, very doomsday.
I don't have the whole speech because
just keep it going for what's left. That's fine.
Around the country, people who didn't know him as we did started to support him. They bought into his bullshit. Trump bought their votes with outrageous lies and empty promises. He got the most religious evangelicals to applaud a sinner who bragged about sexual assault, and who, just a couple of blocks from here, a jury found him liable for sexual abuse.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
He didn't get found guilty of sexual abuse. He was found liable for defamation, which is that's a completely different thing. So accusing someone of being guilty of sexual abuse on CNN on camera, that is something that you can be sued over, because that's a proven lie. Over and over and over again, it's a proven lie.
Sounds like defamation to me. But I like how he says bullshit. You know what I mean? And if you're speaking from the heart and you're an actor like this, why are you reading every single word of your speech?
That was going to be my question. But he thinks he has the platform that he used to have when he was, in all these movies and shit. But that all started to go by the wayside when he kept getting in the news while Trump was president, where people stopped hearing his bullshit. They didn't care anymore. and he's not as relevant as he thinks he is.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. I think his team is just so out of touch. Go ahead, let's finish that off.
Somehow, he even got self-styled patriots to support a man who called for terminating the Constitution, and on January 6th, rallied an angry mob to threaten
democracy is where it cuts off there.
I love it. Just very hyperbolic, very over the top.
It's funny he brings up sexual, like the people that he keeps and all that. That's Brent Weinstein. He was accused of rape and all the other fun stuff and was found guilty and was in jail. Yeah.
No, he's released now, by the way. Feinstein. But he was in jail.
He was in jail. He was found guilty of it, but yeah.
I mean, he's like Will Smith, though. He's a cool guy in the movies. In real life, he's a little pussy. Speaking of pussies, I never ever get tired of making fun of this guy. Let's play this this footage of Fanone walking up. By the way, you know, if your team was as in touch as we are here at the Fair Stop Podcast Network, and again, we do 5 shows a week, so I'm constantly in the know when it comes to society and culture or politics or big case breakdowns. You know, I'm constantly in the know. And I don't even own a company that has somebody like Robert De Niro on it. So you would think whoever Robert De Niro's people would be a million times better than me. But I have a feeling I could have done 1,000 times better for Robert De Niro or for any of these movements here, because I think these guys have no idea what's going on. You saw what happened just a few weeks ago at the Met Gala when New York was like overwhelmingly against. And then Lizzo had to come out and put her foot down because she was so embarrassed by the whole thing. Several other actors, like Biden's, like everybody that was there ends up having to put out statements and loses thousands of followers, millions of followers on not millions, but you know, tens of thousands of followers on Instagram. The protesters, they had to hold the Met Gala like 6 different times. Now, it was not just the Met Gala, but it was that $25,000 a ticket Biden thing.
Yeah,
the fundraiser. I'm sorry, the Biden fund. Well, both of those. Both of them. Disaster. But I'm talking about the fundraiser. Lizzo had to back up out of that, and it was just, you know. So why would you take them to the same area, to the same spot, and try it again when you just saw what happened at that exact area? 2 massive events in a row with protests that were huge, because even the left was protesting the left at the Met Gala because they were anti-Palestine, and the anti-Palestine. I mean, the anti-Israel protest was bigger than any of the protests at the fundraiser. So to parade this guy through here, and you know, when he showed up, he thought that he was gonna get, you know, when we go to a Fair Stop meetup, that's what we get. We get like, hey man, like come to our table, talk to us, let me get a selfie. You know what I mean? We feel all good and our egos go through the roof, even though it's like 20s of people, 30s of people. But you know, this guy's going through and he doesn't, I bet you he didn't get one selfie that day. I bet you not one person said something nice to him. Hit this clip. I love it. I can't get enough of it.
But known the traitor right here, guys. You know who lost their life was Ashley Babbitt. She was murdered, an unarmed veteran. An unarmed veteran. Don't start crying on me, Fanone. Don't start crying on me now. Absolute sellout. Absolute sellout. Traitor to your country.
All right, pause it. So Dead Leg caught something funny here. If you, for those who are just listening, he's just getting berated. There's tons of people. There's more Trump signs and American flags than there are anything else. Nobody likes this guy here. Nobody's saying anything nice to him. He's rubbing his goatee, he's fixing his glasses, he's fixing his hair. He's a nervous wreck. He realized real quickly, oh shit, I fucked up. And then this reporter approaches him. And what did you catch, Dead Leg, on this reporter that's putting his hand on his shoulder and talking to him?
So as he leans in, he asked him about would you want to be doing press.
Absolute
he replies
sellout.
With, "You're done. I don't do press. I don't do press anymore."
But he's there for a press conference in front of the courthouse for Trump, standing behind Robert De Niro, reading over his script with Harry Dunn because they're about to speak. I don't know if he did speak. To be honest with you.
He did.
Yeah,
No,
I
he
figured
did.
he did. I mean, he was studying his little speech while standing behind Robert De Niro, which I think is extremely rude. When Harry Dunn is just back there trying to read his script and trying to memorize it, kind of moving his lips. How fucking retarded are you? Like, are you that fucking retarded that you're going to show up to New York City all the way from Washington? Like, you didn't study your script from before I do stand-up comedy. I study so hard up until the point that I get to the comedy area. And if you've asked anybody that's done come to one of my comedy shows, they will tell you that when I get there, my notes go in my pocket and I'm moving around the area and I'm shaking hands, kissing babies, drinking fake beer, non-alcoholic beers, and hanging out. The time for studying is over. If I have to be back in a green room still studying, then I'm not ready. I shouldn't have been ready. So by the time I get there, I don't study my shit until I go on stage. I spend my time with the patrons that showed up, the people who bought tickets. So this guy on a world stage has to study while standing behind Robert fucking De Niro. What a fucking retard.
When you get these celebrities that use their platform or what platform they think they have. I saw a clip of that Charlemagne the God on The View, and they were begging him to endorse Biden, and he was like, "I'm not endorsing anybody." Now, I mean, he let it be known like which way he was probably leaning. He was like, "I'm going to vote, but I'm not endorsing. Why should I have to endorse?" But these bitches were just hammering him, trying to get him to say it on their show, and it was just absolutely sickening to watch them beg and plead because the fucking retards that they are.
Nico the Greco says, "What is a self-styled patriot?" I don't know if anybody in the chats know what a self-styled patriot is. I mean, if I had to guess, C- at best guess live on the YouTubes and podcasts here, I would say self-styled means like people that are wearing like patriot outfits, maybe like lots of red, white, and blue and stuff. Self-styled. I don't know. It's a good question though. Cupcake came in and says, "I hate The View." Honestly, The View, The View gets such little engagement, and like the only engagement The View gets is from social media, from memes, and from YouTube Shorts, which I think is the only reason. Now, that's been my theory for a while, because I think that the viewership of The View is so low, and I think it was like something like 300,000 views or something like that for an episode. Our fact checker can look that up for me. I'd covered this about 2 years ago. And this is when I came up with this theory. Their viewership is so low, but their engagement level is so high because they say ridiculous shit that goes viral. So it's not that anybody's watching the show. It's the engagement that these advertisers are getting on the social media platforms.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the only reason, the only way I saw somebody on a rant like this, and it was before De Niro, before that press conference, but they think they have this huge platform, and his platform's gone and has been.
Yeah. Which I think is cool about our podcast too, is because we do very little shock factor reels. We do very little social media compared to the investments and the cameras and the equipment and the editors that a lot of these other podcasts are investing in. We invest so little in our YouTube and in our shorts, and we're still maintaining very solid numbers network wide. I think we're somewhere around 491,000, something like that for the year so far up to date. So I was just
close
on
to 500,000.
Yeah, close to
we were either
500,000.
close to, if not just over.
And our audio engagement and our social media engagement is so personal. You guys, know that a lot of you guys have my phone number, my personal phone number. I've texted folks. You guys email me. We have a Facebook group, which, by the way, is going to get a lot bigger. I'm going to go into that in just a second. But did you find anything out about The View?
So when I just quickly looked it up, they reference the season views. So they reference somewhere about 2 million views over the season. But if you average that out over the rest of the 365 days, that's not a lot of views per
Yeah, I mean,
day.
did we hit 2 million last year for the season?
I think we were just shy, like 1.8 or 1.9 million.
Yeah. Wow.
So we're on par or not better than The View on our viewership.
And not for YouTube viewership, for like listener. That's for audio. That's not even including YouTube. But I will say that they have way more viral engagement and probably have tens of millions clicks and views, not necessarily positive. So the money, that's why that money is huge. So they're
the way that
they're taking tons more money by saying the most ridiculous shit. But that's just my theory of why they keep them around.
Because if they say stupid shit, they can clip it. They can put it on TikTok and they'll get 10 million views. And then they can put an ad in the background or whatever. So they'll just let the entire show play for the hour. They'll pull their 2 or 3 clips. And those 2 or 3 clips are what pays the bills. The rest of the show isn't there. They're looking for clips. They're looking for reactions. They're not looking for content. We chase content. We chase the substance of it. We want to make sure that what we put out is genuine. That way, when we do clip it, we do our reels, that there's some value to it. It's not just, hey, look, we got 10 million clicks on us talking about how space is because we're idiots about space. It's funny, I'm wearing a space shirt today, but yeah,
you know a lot about space though. Like
I know a little bit about space, but I gotta let you guys know this is my last show. I've accepted a position as a meme generator. I can't say who it's with.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna pay me close to $85,000 a year.
Yeah. Shit, what are we paying you? It's gotta be close to that. I'm just kidding.
I might have to take a pay cut. My $1.8 million a year salary that I get here is going to be cut a little bit. But
speaking of salaries and meme lords, we've got some sponsors that keep this show on the road. And actually we would like to be able to afford to pay some more meme generators ourselves and some editors and some other things. We do have 2 amazing producers that we have on staff, and we have tons of other podcasts that we pay out. I think like at this point we've got close to 12 podcasters that we pay network wide of some money, which if anybody podcasts, it's hard to make any money podcasting. So doing pretty good there. But GhostBed has been with us since day one. They've been a loyal sponsor. We love them so much. We've got actually a big GhostBed sponsored event coming up in October with Anti-Hero Podcast. I'm not going to give out too much on that. That's going to be really big, but it is in October. And we're in talks with, I'll just spill the beans. We're in talks with some crazy bands, maybe a Jared Taylor, maybe some other big giant heavy metal bands. And there's the FOP is opening up a new FOP building. So we're holding up a big grand opening style live podcast, lots of entertainment, comedy show one night, bands the next night, big kind of veterans. First responder business fair all day. Lots going on there. Private VIP dinner that Friday night people can get in on. And so it's going to be really fun, but that's in October. More to that to come. But GhostBed's going to be a big part of that too. We love GhostBed. You can use the promo code Wolfpack right now after my jiu-jitsu rollathon for 1 hour. Yesterday I woke up extremely sore from it. And I woke up at, 6:40, something like that, and laid on my massage GhostBed topper, which you see right here on the screen, for another almost hour and a half. I answered probably 10 emails laying on my massage topper, just getting massaged. I got out of bed at like 8 or 9. My wife was like, "Are you just waking up?" I was like, "No, I've been in there emailing all sorts of shit. I've just been laying on my massage topper and I couldn't get off." I kept sending it for 30 minutes and the 30 minutes would be over. And it has that heating, the vibrating, the heating, plus it needs your back, and it'll pop your back. It's a great product. Head over to ghostbed.com. They also have the adjustable base. They have all the mattresses, cooling sheets, pillows, pillowcases. We'll be in Jackalope, Virginia Beach this Friday through Sunday. So I'll be traveling with my GhostBed pillow for that. Also, we have factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. I could not have done my rollathon without a proper diet, without getting in shape. I'm down 22 pounds officially from when I started everything. I'm not doing the new South Park Ozempic thing or anything like that. I'm just literally eating right and exercising. I'm not doing anything else. Promise. Unlike the South Park episode, which is hilarious, by the way. But Factor Meals have been a big part of this for me, getting my diet on right. If you want protein heavy, you want calorie conscious, you want vegan or vegetarian, whatever diet you're trying to go on, whether you're trying to bulk up, whether you're trying to cut weight, whatever it is, Factor Meals can help you. These are chef prepared, fresh and never frozen meals delivered right to your door, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Hundreds of options, which is being scrolled through on the screen right now by Josh. They have the breakfast shakes. They have the smoothies. They have all the things that you could want so that you don't have to be eat like shit at work. What you're doing, your core prep, you're doing all these things. Last thing you need to do is thinking about driving to the store, going in, buying your shrimp, buying your chicken, buying your beef, buying your things, cooking it separately, finding all your Pyrex dishes, finding all the lids to match them, finding room in your refrigerator to store them, when you could just go to factormeals.com, promo code Wolfpack50 or factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. That's 50. Go to the website, pick out the meals. They get delivered in these beautiful packages. You stick them right in the refrigerator. They stack up very nicely. 2 minutes, even if you're using a Walmart peasant microwave that every first responder house has. They never have the good microwaves. They always have those pieces of shit microwaves. But even with those microwaves, 2 minutes with Factor Meals, and you could be eating like a king, eating like a true upper middle class first responder, making everybody else with those PB&Js and those spoiled bologna sandwiches jealous. Head over to factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. All right. Before we get into this meme seeker thing, we have signed up 2 podcasts to the Failure to Stop podcast network. Now, we are going from C- Media, which will always be the LLC, will always be there, but we are starting a thing called FTSPN, Failure to Stop Podcast Network. It's going to have its own Instagram page. It's going to have its own YouTube. It's going to have its own Facebook, and it will include everybody on the network. We actually have a website being built out for this, very professional website. We're getting our Failure to Stop podcast rebuilt. This is all coming from our Patreon money and our YouTube money. We've saved it up over a few months, and that's what's being able to afford this. We've just signed on with a contract with 2 Cops, 1 Donut. I was live with them yesterday. We have Anti-Hero podcast, and we have Donut Shop podcast out of Miami, Florida, coming on the network. So those will all be under the same RSS feed as C- Media, or as now we're going to just call it Failure to Stop Podcast Network, FTSPN. And yep, this is our 2 Cops, 1 Donut. And then we also have the Donut Shop on. And we've got a couple more in the works coming on this network, but we are building a network that we are going to travel together, do live shows together, and so that you guys can go to one website and find all of the best podcasts that are kind of in the same genre, if you will. Yeah, there's the Donut Shop podcast, and we're all going to be co-hosting on each show, sharing guests, sharing hosts, and just really building this thing out and doing live shows to entertain first responders in towns across the U.S. We're trying to get one for Cincinnati. We definitely have one going for Orlando. We just did one in Kissimmee, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, done a couple in North Carolina. So getting out and about. And so if you want to be a part of this, it's going to have its own Discord with all of them in there. We're going to retry Discord. We're just reorganizing everything, making big new moves this summer for the whole network. And if you want to be a part of that, you can join the Patreon, which is now going to be called the Failure to Stop Podcast Network. Our Patreon is going to be called FTSPN, and you can subscribe, and all of the shows will go on, or at least clips from these shows or side shows. Everybody will be able to use the FTSPN, and we'll share that money across the network for Patreon. I think it's like less than a cup of coffee a month, $3 a month. Plus we're redoing YouTube. There's going to be an FTSPN YouTube channel that features everybody on it for like shorts and clips and extra content. That's going to be great. For all the money of people that are right here on the Failure to Stop podcast, which is just a podcast on the FTSPN. All that money goes to the network. So thank you guys all so much for that, which is how you build a culture, which is how you build fans from across the board, and how we share fans and we build the biggest buildings in the town without burning other buildings down. That's how you do social media. You don't hire a meme lord for $83,000 a year and then give them all sorts of red tape so that they make the most cringe memes ever and just make your campaign look ridiculous, which is what exactly I think is going to happen with this Biden meme manager. Read this story for us there, Josh.
There are 2 universal truths about memes. 1, a meme has passed its peak when the corporations start using, and 2, political memes are very hard to pull off. Democrats and Republicans alike have made attempts at internet humor and have ended with just being cringe. President Joe Biden's re-election campaign, which has built somewhat of a robust internet presence so far, I'm laughing inside, is trying to take it further. According to a recent job listing, the campaign is hiring a partner manager to handle, quote, day-to-day operations and engaging the internet's top content and meme pages, end quote. The position comes with a salary of up to $85,000. The job essentially entails recruiting content creators to make memes for the campaign, says Clark Humphrey, the campaign senior advisor for digital persuasion.
Now I remember the last time that they really tried to run with a meme, which was that laser eyes Biden. They've doubled, triple, quadrupled down on it. And I don't think anybody looks at that and says, boy, that's a person that's going to unite this country. A person with demon laser eyes, like looks like a bad guy out of an X-Men comic novel, comic book, whatever you call him. Very cringe, but their social media people were like, hey, man, that's real cool. Let's keep going with it. It's really working. Do better. I mean, it's obvious you're trying to be Trump, and it's not like, how does that look like it's uniting?
Right.
Like at least MAGA, you can articulate as making America great again, and it's hard to argue. Like this right here is not. Nobody looks at that and goes, "Oh yeah, that's gonna." That doesn't look like a
boss
bad guy.
of a video game.
Let's make him look like the Emperor from Star Wars.
Oh my!
It's the bad guy in every movie from the 80s.
He just needs like that fake lightning behind him.
And Hans. He needs to change his name to Hans.
Yeah. Hans Biden. What a fucking joke. But anyway, if you want to be a meme lord, Will Cray's been making some great memes for the Feather Stop Podcast Network. Bosco, Forever Road Podcast. Listen, Bosco, let's work out a deal with you and Falconator. You guys are going to be running a lot of these pages. We'll run some free publicity to your podcast, Forever Road Podcast. We need to reamp the Wolf Pack, the FTS_Wolf Pack. I don't mind it staying FTS Wolf Pack, but we need to change that profile image on the private group for Facebook. And it's got to be, we're going to try to, we'll get up with John from Difficult to Look At Images. Just send him a private message. Let's get something so we can be consistent with, because I want to get Discord and all things, but we really want to make this a community and make it open. You guys are doing a great job over there. And I think it's time to just, I'll pay John a little extra to make a really good Wolfpack profile picture. That coffee mug, just, we're getting too cool, and it's going to get really cool this summer. My book is due on June 1st. So all that stuff's going to get ramping up. So it needs to go. So Bosco Autry that runs him and Folk around and find out they run the FTS_Wolfpack private Facebook group. And we're going to get them more involved as admins in the Discord when we relaunch the Discord. So I really want to make them kind of like presidents of that. So I really want to make that more professional if we can. Secret Service prepares for, we got two more stories here. Two of my favorite. So there's a report out that the Secret Service has reportedly, now I'm going to read this from the dailywire.com. The Secret Service has reportedly met with jail officials in New York in anticipation of a possible conviction in former President Donald Trump's hush money case. A corrections source told CBS News that such preparations were underway as Manhattan trial reached closing arguments and jury deliberations this week. What the fuck is a corrections source? Hold on, though. The report said corrections officers would be responsible for protecting any Secret Service agents, because Secret Service agents have to protect the president for life, whether they're in jail or not. Tasked with safeguarding Trump if he needs any time behind bars. Although the location of where Trump might serve jail time remains unclear, CBS noted shorter sentences can be served at Rikers Island complex. I mean, the propaganda is so thick in this. Although the location of where Trump might serve jail time remains unclear, CBS noted, or FTSPN noted, the sentences can be served on the moon. Could be an International Space Station sentencing. We could be sentencing Trump. I mean, these are just anonymous sources that are being reported by FTSPN. So it's an anonymous report from a corrections source. Okay, guys, let's talk about it. What is a corrections source? How is the media getting away with putting out news where the source is a correction source says that they are getting ready for a prison? What is this correction source? Am I missing something?
Well, this is what's crazy is we have all of these articles that have come out in the last 24 hours over this one paragraph. one paragraph from CBS News, and they don't even have a quote. They're just saying what someone may have said. Well, a crackhead at the gas station is my source, and he told me that you're full of shit. This is ridiculous. It's a possibility that officials and state and federal agencies have begun preparing, according to a New York's corrections source who said the Secret Service has met with local jail officials. That seems pretty big. Let's get a quote on that. If we're going to run that as, hey, we are about to jail the last person that was in the president's chair, the person that was the former president, we're going to put him in jail. This is the biggest story on the face of the earth. We're going to jail the former president of the freest nation in the world, the greatest nation in the world. We're going to put him in jail, and we're not going to get a full quote. We're just going to call it an anonymous source. And then the rest of the media is going to do what they do, and they're going to run with this anonymous source.
Let's drop that pebble in the water and watch the ripples go out and see what comes back. It's exactly what that is.
And I would be willing to bet there's no source. You're not going to go into it like what does a corrections officer call the news and call CBS specifically and say, hey, we're making preparations. What are the what would the preparations be? Like, we're cleaning the sheets for them? Like, you know what I mean? Like corrections officers would even know where he was going.
They contradict themselves because they don't know.
So let's play this out. Let's pretend all three of us are the part involved in this, right? Okay. So I'll play the part of the Secret Service. You guys are the corrections people. So we're going to have this discussion about a sitting president in jail, things that would involve national security, because keeping him alive, even though he's not the current president, he gets Secret Service protection for life. That's noted in the article. It's noted in the Constitution. It's in there. Okay. So these are national security things. So if we're discussing them, and then one of you decides, hey, I'm going to go call my buddy at CBS and just leak this stuff to him, instead of trying to figure out who did a donut over a pride parade mural, let's find out who's leaking sensitive information to CBS News. And there's a difference between leaking information between confidential information and leaking information that is detrimental to national security. If I gave you the codes to the football, that's detrimental to national security. That shouldn't be out there. What Julian Assange has got out and leaked all of that information about the United States spying and all the other stuff that we're doing, that we already have laws that say we can't be doing this stuff, but we're doing it anyway. And here's the information and evidence to prove it. That's a difference between a leak and trying to give out information that's detrimental to national security.
Julian Assange was using what I think she was maybe in the Air Force or the Army. I can't really remember. It's been so long, but Julian Assange was using a source inside the military to send him emails that were he was running a story, doing independent journalism, and Julian Assange had some very good, convincing articles that war crimes were being committed and ignored, or at least, because I don't believe that I don't necessarily believe that the one story he was running with was this Apache pilot shooting up maybe it was like a wedding. I can't really remember the facts of the case, but if you looked at that case in its totality, because this was 5 years ago, the totality of that was like, shit happens, bad intel happens, war sucks, war is crazy, and you're taking all sorts of people and forcing them to take on a mindset of savagery, and there's no telling how people are going to act in certain situations. A guy like me, I might go scalping people. You know what I mean? If my adrenaline gets cranked, you get me around the right people, I might have no problem scalping people. But I wouldn't have done it if you didn't force me to go there and force me into the war in the first place. And I get it. There's got to be rules in Geneva Convention. But Julian Assange had a pretty good case, or a pretty good argument that he was working on. And kind of what blew it open, though, was him, on this minor emails from an inside spy at the Air Force who didn't really get that much time for leaking the emails to him, for giving him the emails. They're trying to, crucify Julian Assange. I mean, he's been on the run and hiding for how many years? 10 years now? 15 years,
But,
something like that.
I mean, it doesn't add credence to anything that he's saying. It surely doesn't put any weight behind, hey, they're trying to get me because I'm giving out this information, and the things that I'm saying are detrimental to what they're trying to put out, and they're still trying to get me, and they're actually trying to get him. It makes me believe a lot of what it puts more weight behind it.
Because it's like they won't answer any of his questions. They won't put up an argument. He's already released, the WikiLeaks is already out there. We've already read it. We've already seen it. And you guys are saying nothing to it. Like, why doesn't the American people, why don't we deserve to have a statement from you guys on what Julian Assange put out and what you guys' opinion on it? Instead, they just act like we don't need to know anything about what Julian Assange put out, pretend like we didn't all see it, pretend like we're not all going to talk about it, and we're going to bury this dude. I mean, Hillary Clinton said, why can't we just bomb the embassy that he was hiding in? Or something to that effect. Well, can you bring that quote up? Hillary Clinton to blow up Julian Assange. I just want to make sure I'm getting that right. I don't want to run Hillary Clinton's name through the dirt. I mean, there's so many other things I could run it through the dirt. I just don't want to be wrong on this one. But now they're talking about the other big news today is that Donald Trump may actually pardon. He was on the Tim Pool. Go ahead, read this Politico from Hillary Clinton real fast, and I'll get into Tim.
I don't recall joking about droning Julian Assange, but she doesn't recall deleting a bunch of emails. She doesn't. There's a lot of stuff that she doesn't recall. So
well, that was a recorded. Does the article talk about it? Because I believe that they had her recorded saying it.
Can we just drone this guy? The website claimed Clinton had said. WikiLeaks. I don't recall any joke Clinton said when asked about the allegations in the press conference. It would have been a joke if it had been said, but I don't recall that.
Well, maybe she didn't say it.
Or she joked about, or she said it, and then after the fact,
you know what I mean? It'd be a weird thing to make up.
Joke,
right?
It'd be a weird thing to make
very
up.
random.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna spread a lie about Hillary Clinton, and I'm just gonna say that she wanted a drone strike. She suggested drone striking Julian Assange. I don't know. Doesn't seem like. I feel like if you're gonna lie, that they would have said that, like, suicide him, or something more on brand. But who knows? Let me read this last article before we get out of here. This is if you've been keeping up with the news, Donald Trump, RFK Jr., there was a big libertarian kind of the national convention this weekend or this last weekend, and Tim Pool interviewed Donald Trump and he interviewed RFK Jr. Both really good interviews. I suggest you go and listen to them. Tim Pool asked, will you pardon Julian Assange? Mr. Trump responded, quote, well, I'm going to talk about that today, and we're going to give it a very serious consideration. And we're going to have a couple of other things to say in the speech that I think you're going to love. However, Mr. Trump did not specifically address Mr. Assange's situation. In his speech, he did say he would appoint a special task force to rapidly review the case of every political prisoner who's been unjustly persecuted by the Biden administration. He went on to repeat his pledge to pardon supporters who had been jailed over the January 6th Capitol riot, as well as Ross Ulbricht, a black market website operator who was sentenced to life in prison in 2015. Mr. Trump was heckled and booed at times during his speech, including after he suggested the Libertarian Party should endorse him to run. And you can go and listen to that. It's on Tim Pool, Timcast IRL, I believe it was. But just type in Tim Pool and you can go and listen to those interviews. Really good. I thought what RFK Jr. had to say was really good. And Trump was in good spirits as always. The Libertarian Party has an opportunity to kind of make some grounds, but what RFK says is that there's no party that fights more than the Libertarians, and because Libertarians by nature, by definition, are anti-rules, right? So they're anti-establishment. They're not yes people. So when you have a whole entire party full of people who hate government, who hate authority, it's going to be really hard for them to unite around any type of leadership because they're all against the leadership. But it was a very interesting podcast. I think it would be interesting to see Trump pardon Julian Assange. To be honest with you, though, my chance to drama's prediction there is they pardon him, he comes back and gets assassinated immediately.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see him walking around long if that does.
Here's why I don't think that he'll get a pardon. Is once you've opened that Pandora's box, everything that he has, everything that anybody has ever come to WikiLeaks about, everything that Edward Snowden, all the stuff that he brought out, you start pulling that Band-Aid off and start pulling the layers off and you start going down in, how deep down the rabbit hole do we go? Because there's allegations that the CIA knew about 9/11. Like, because if we're going down the Afghanistan and Iraq, we have to go back a little bit further to see how we get there. So it's like, I can't remember the quote about why they're not keeping the JFK assassin. Why, if you've seen it, the people that have seen it, if you've seen it, you wouldn't want it to be released, or whatever the people have said that. I think it's kind of one of those things where if we start to pull that off, we're getting into the weeds here really, really deep. And there's going to be a lot of things back there that the United States has probably done that we're not so proud about. And we've really done a hard job about keeping all that stuff and secrets behind locked doors and deleting emails off of servers and people, falling, having suicides in prison. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that the United States government's involved with, but we probably don't want to air that dirty laundry out. So I don't know that he gets a full pardon. And if he does, it'll probably, my thought would be is, all right, we're gonna give this to you, but now you're going to shut up. If you say anything else ever again, you're going back to we're going to lock you away, throw away the key, and we're going to forget that you even exist.
Yeah. The Julian Assange case is always fascinating. There's a lot of podcasts out about Julian Assange. If you want to go back and do some research on your own, that's a great rabbit hole to go down. And you may agree with Julian Assange to some point, maybe not. I still think I'm a big believer in independent journalism, and however you can get creative in finding that journalism, I don't think you should be punished for it. I think that should be your job, is to blow stories wide open. And I think you should get creative. Now, I think there is like a moral obligation and an ethical obligation to not chase people around like paparazzi style and abuse it. But within reason, I think you should be able to carry out these investigations, like the Ashley Biden diary, the Biden laptop, any of the George Bush war crimes, even going in after Trump. I feel like the media should have an opportunity to do those things without repercussions, kind of like police have qualified immunity. However, you can't deliberately lie and you can't deliberately incite, which is kind of what the left media has been doing for the last 6 or 7 years. Now, somebody put in there that the Libertarian Party leans very left. I mean, I think if you're left, the Libertarian Party would argue that they lean to right, and the right, because I mean, if you think about it, libertarian as a whole, you wouldn't believe in abortion at all. Like, you would be the right to choose because we're a free country. The border crisis would be a big argument, because if you have ultimate freedom, and that's what you are, then you would have an open border, which, I don't know, that would be something you would have to argue about as a libertarian. So you could go left or right on that argument, but to have ultimate freedom, you do kind of have to have open borders. But also, open borders is absurd, because you wouldn't be able to have a way of life as a libertarian if you had open borders. So there's the argument. The whole guns thing, you would have to be able to say you're pro guns, all guns. So if you're on the left, you would say that they're very right. But again, if you say that there's complete pro-choice, then you would say they're far left. So it would be very hard to make a Libertarian Party work, just because believing in no rules and then having to debate what's within reason kind of goes against, these anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian folks, which is why I've always been curious about the Libertarian Party. But I'm a reasonableist. I mean, I've always said if I was going to start my own party, it would be called the Reasonableist Party, because, but then what's within reason of Eric Tansey? And then there would be huge arguments there. Some people would say it's unreasonable to be pro-life. And then, I would say it's unreasonable to have an abortion or to kill a human being, it's politics is difficult. The thing about RFK Jr., and somebody said that, too many people on the both left and right hate him. I think that I like a lot of things that RFK says. I think I would have a beer with RFK. He probably doesn't drink beer at all, but I mean, I would go on a hike with RFK Jr. I like some of the Greenpeace stuff that he was talking about in the Tim Pool article. Even though I hate the Greenpeace, there's a lot of, I think RFK Jr. is a very interesting character. And I think that he is passionate about what he believes. And I think he feels convicted by a lot of things. I think he has some moral and he has some ethical convictions, which we don't see in a lot of politics right now. Now, I don't agree with his take on abortion. I'll be very honest with you. I don't agree with him on his Second Amendment. take. I don't, but I don't hate him by any means. I think he would be a cool guy, and I do think that he has some kind of moral convictions. I hate typical politicians because I don't see moral convictions in them. It's not that I necessarily hate them because I disagree with their political stance. I disagree with their moral and their ethical values and the principles that they stand or don't stand on. I can see the conflictions or the conflicts that run through RFK's brain, and I can see that he's not really so much flopping as he's trying to, one, he's got to try to win. He has to try to win. So he's going to say some audacious things because he's got to win somebody over. And I think he started out very honestly, but he's realizing that now he's in his last ditch effort. So he's going to get even crazier. But I would hang out with RFK Jr. I would not vote for him, but I like some of his stances too. I like his vaccination stances and things like that. Jonathan says he disagrees with all of it. I mean, that's fine. I mean, would you say that you hate RFK Jr.? Are you a RFK Jr. hater? Like, do you hate him?
I agree with you in the fact I think he'd be an interesting fellow to sit and talk to kind of deep dive a little bit further into some of his thought processes. But
I'm not voting for him.
No,
maybe in 4 years. Because Trump can't run again in 4 years.
I'm not voting for RFK. I don't like his second A. I don't budge on the Second Amendment shit because that's literally to me the most important thing. Because without it, then I can't fight. I can't defend myself and my family against the government. So I have a pretty hard stance on Second Amendment shit. But anyway, I got to get going because it's a long day. The book is due on June 1st. So I've got a big giant book meeting. I have a meeting at 11:15. It's 11:05 or 11:06 for myself, Eric Tansey, and the Failure to Stop podcast on the Failure to Stop podcast network. Josh from Dead Leg Media, producer, fact checker extraordinaire, and host. And then also one more and I'm out of here podcast host, as well as our sports host on Thursdays with Jonathan Bates. We've got Kiefer with us today. Appreciate it. You guys go follow them. If you're curious and you want to learn more about each one of these hosts, soon there will be a website that has a lot about them and where you can find them in their social medias. You can also watch our YouTube and fast forward to this point of the YouTube, and you will see their @ symbols below our names. You can follow them individually. And from everybody in the live chats, Corn Pop was a bad dude, Low Ren, Cupcakes and Cameo, Michael Hendricks, all of you guys. Thank you all for being here. Marines Bloodbath, Tactic Cool Dude, Will Cray, Mur 530 keeps going on. Thank you guys so much for being in the live chats. Until next time, the more you know. See, we do the Night Shift Top Secret Information. By the way, new episodes of Night Shift Top Secret Information is out. So that's on the FTSPN network. It's its own show. It's called Night Shift TSI, Night Shift Top Secret Information Conspiracy Theory Show. There's a new episode out on that. I almost said their ending, their outro, but our outro is what? Oh, the more you know, and knowing is half the battle. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers.